what allows you to buy life insurance, for example, is really your health. It's not your budget. Because your budget, you tell me I can do this, I can do that. Okay, we can find something that fits within your budget. But what allows you to buy that life insurance is your health. Because you need to answer medical questions and pass medical underwriting.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Lowkey Genius Podcast. I'm your host, Juvel De Lima, and today I'm excited to welcome Lorena Tomasini to the show. She's the host of 12 Minute Talks, a podcast where business owners and entrepreneurs share valuable insights in a short and engaging format. Beyond podcasting, Lorena helps business owners and families navigate financial protection, making complex topics like life and health insurance easy to understand. Let's dive into her journey, the lessons she learned as a podcaster, and how she keeps important conversations both fun and impactful. Lorena, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yes, of course, I am happy and it's a pleasure to have you today on the show. Can you give us a little bit of a background about you? How did you start? What you do right now?
Well, for my actual business, which is life and health insurance, I started in college. And
Wow.
at the time, we were helping a lot of homeowners with like buying a life insurance policy to cover their mortgage if they were to pass away or have a critical illness like cancer, heart attack, or stroke, be able to use that life insurance, right? So
Yes.
pretty much that's what we've been doing for about 18 years. We've transitioned a little bit more to health insurance, but we always believe that life insurance is the bedrock of any type of financial protection that businesses and families should definitely have in place. And then in 2019, I decided to start a podcast to interview other business owners and entrepreneurs here in Florida about who they help and what they do as a way to, give back to the community.
Yes. And you started on pandemic when the pandemic happened.
I started
Yes.
like a year before in 2019.
Okay.
Just one Friday night, I thought, how hard can it be? You just put a intro and some music at the end, and then just interview somebody about their life journey and things like that. And I just started one Friday night. At the time, I was just doing audio because that was more popular. And then yeah,
Yes.
definitely during the pandemic, more people were open to video, and so
Yes.
now we just do videos because it also gives the guests more opportunities to promote themselves, right? As the experts that they are.
Yes, and your podcast 12 Minute Talks is all about sharing valuable business insights in a short time. So what inspired you
For
to create
sure.
a show that with that unique format?
Well, it's interesting because that Friday
Yes.
night I looked online and I'm like, oh, maybe nobody else has this 12-minute concept. And I looked and I didn't find anything. And about 3 months later, I find this other podcaster called Engo Jones. He has a podcast called um 12-minute convos or 12-minute conversations, and I've been on his show twice already, and it's the same concept of just 12 minutes. His is audio only. But the reason why I chose 12 minutes, one, I like the number, and two, at the time I had just celebrated my 12th year anniversary of being in insurance, so I
Wow.
kind of tied it into that. And I thought, that's more than enough time to really find out what somebody does, who they help, what makes them stand out from their competitors. So that's what I thought. And I'm like, I also don't have an hour to be interviewing people either, because I didn't realize how time consuming podcasts are as well. So for me, that was a good amount of time.
Yes, we all have a unique story behind our podcast, the name behind our podcast. Yes, because sometimes it is hard to think the best name for our podcast, and sometimes they overthink it most of the time because
Right.
sometimes you have to explain it to other people why it is the name of your podcast like that. So like what I did, my podcast, we have to tie it with our purpose,
Mm-hmm.
why we started the podcast. So like me, I started the podcast Lowkey Genius Podcast because I believe everybody's a genius. It's just sometimes people get overlooked by people because we are doing things that not on trend,
Right.
right? That right? Yes. So talking about financial protection, so can sometimes can feel a little overwhelming for people. Am I right? So how do you make topics like life insurance and health insurance engaging for your audience?
Certainly. So I think one of the things that we do to make it engaging is definitely storytelling, because in a lot of what we do, people never think that that's going to happen to them, right? So at least if we tell a story and they can see somebody else going through that scenario, then they can see how they're not really protected if that were to happen to them. And when we talk about financial protection, we're really talking about no matter what life throws at you, right? Because
Yes.
things might be going great today, but you don't know what the future might hold. And it's just being prepared for anything, right? We do a lot of, besides storytelling, we also, memes on social media, people like to make it fun and engaging, right? And it's just really having that conversation with people. We're not here trying to sell you something. We're providing you information so that you can make an informed decision. Because a lot of times, like especially with life insurance, people just think of it, oh, when I pass away, right? But there's a lot of things that we can do with life insurance along the way.
Yes.
You can use it to fund a business later on in life. Some people use it to supplement their retirement, especially business owners like that concept. Some people even do it to buy a car in the future instead of paying high interest from banks. They just take the money out of their life insurance policy and finance their car that way, right? So there's a lot of creativity and I think positive scenarios that we can look at, not just worst case scenario of, oh, if I pass away or if something like cancer or heart attack happens, you always know that if any of that happens, you have that policy there in place for that. But let's also look at all the positive living benefits that they have. So I think doing this for 18 years, we see things that
Wow.
happen when people are not financially prepared. Like it's happened to me where I've presented things and people haven't bought, and then they've called me, a few months later, like, hey, remember that policy you told me about? And I'm like, yeah, but you didn't buy it. So it's just things that sometimes procrastination is not good when it comes to these things.
Always procrastination is not good most of the time. So what you do is really interesting and something that I don't have much of a knowledge about, because as a young and starting on my career, also in my life, starting also with starting a family. So
Uh-huh.
what advice can you give to me, also to all of our audience who are just beginner and
Yeah.
wanted to know more about this insurance, health insurance? Because right now I am starting my own family. I have a wife. We don't have
Mm-hmm.
yet children, but I already have a work, and I
Mm-hmm.
transition to starting my own agency, my own
Good.
business. What
Yeah.
advice can you give me to someone like
I,
me?
I would say now's like the perfect time to really start looking into these things. For one, you're married, so somebody depends on you financially, right?
Yes.
And then you're also growing a business, which is a lot of responsibility, right? So
Yes.
it's definitely a good time to say, okay, well, this is my income now. What would it look like if I were to replace my income for the next 10 years with the life insurance if something happens to me so that my spouse can continue, right? Because somebody depends on you financially and vice versa. Also, maybe she works, maybe she doesn't work, but either way, she's contributing either financially or with her time, right? If it's like a housewife, sometimes people think, oh, it's a housewife, they don't contribute financially, but they contribute with their time. Like if you were to replace everything that a housewife does, you would need like 5 employees, right? So it's certainly something to think about. Like, okay, first life insurance to cover that. And then the other thing I would look at if you're starting a business is also life insurance to cover like overhead expenses, or if you have employees to cover their income if something happens to you, right? Because I'm assuming a lot of the things is because you're creating something, and then you have staff that helps you with distribution and with
Yes.
everything else, right? So if something happens to you, you need to make sure that that business can continue, right? That's with life insurance. With health insurance, that's always important because even though you're young, right? A lot of times we think, oh, I don't, I just go once a year to the doctor. I can pay for that on my own. But we don't think about, well, what if you get food poisoning or a car accident or something, right? How are you going to pay those bills? Because at least here in the United States, yeah, the health insurance is really important for something catastrophic, like a hospital stay, because it's really costly to do that. And so health insurance is really there to protect your pocket, that you know that you won't spend more than whatever the maximum out of pocket is. And that way you know, okay, if something happens, this is the most I could pay, and the millions and millions the insurance company can take care of, right? So that's really what insurance is at the end of the day. It's transferring that risk that you have now for the majority of the risks to be put on the insurance company, and then you just pay a premium in order to do that.
That is really insightful. And of course, for me as a beginner, that is one thing I should invest on right now. And is there any perfect time to start investing on life insurance and health insurance?
I always say, what allows you to buy life insurance, for example, is really your health. It's not your budget. Because your budget,
Yes.
you tell me I can do this, I can do that. Okay, where we can find something that fits within your budget. But what allows you to buy that life insurance is your health. Because you need to answer medical questions and pass medical underwriting. So if you're young, more than likely, right, you don't have a health issue to worry about, and it'll also be more affordable to buy insurance then. Because what happens is, as life passes, maybe something happens, a heart attack or something, which makes it very
Yes.
hard or more, even more costly to get insurance. um, and so that's why I say, the what really allows you to buy life insurance is your health, okay? Because you need to pass medical underwriting. Health insurance nowadays, it's a lot easier because it's just really based on income and family size. We no longer have to pass medical underwriting for that. So for now, that's the way that it is, and it's a lot easier to do that. Mhm.
Yes, exactly right. Thank you so much for that. So let's talk about again, let's get back to what you do in your podcast. So what's been one of the most surprising or memorable moments you've had while hosting your podcast?
Yeah, I think, I've interviewed like a lot of different coaches, life coaches for some reason.
Yes.
And the one that I thought was really interesting, she was a coach for women when they give birth, for like lactation. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know that was like an actual career that that
Yes.
teaches people how. And she's like, oh yeah, we just do it over Zoom and this and that. And I was like, wow,
Yes.
it made me realize that, like, nowadays, anything in life you want to do, you can pursue, because you always have a market and somebody that's interested in what you do.
Exactly.
Like, you don't need thousands or millions of clients. You just need maybe a few hundred to be successful, right? Whatever your
Exactly.
definition is of success, right? So I
Yes.
thought that was an interesting guess for sure. What I didn't expect was how much time it takes to really do a podcast, between finding guests that you think are going to be good, um, editing the podcast. Mine's only 12 minutes, so there's not a lot of editing and to do. But I think delegation has been really helpful, to have somebody else be the one to schedule it,
Yes.
to do all the behind the scenes, because I didn't sign up for for a job. As far as like all the extra stuff that to make it look nice. Hmm.
Yes, exactly right. It is really good to invest also to someone you can delegate some of the tasks that you don't need to do. Sometimes you have to put your time to something that really make an impact to your career. Am I right? So sometimes you don't need to do that thing because you can delegate that. So that is very important. So right now it's already 5 years on your podcast, right?
Yeah.
5 years, 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
How
And
many episodes have you
yeah.
already recorded?
I have over 125 episodes. I took a little bit of a break last year because I've been really busy with my actual
Yes.
job, which is great. But I definitely want to revamp this year, and I already have some guests lined up.
Wow, that is
Mhm.
amazing. And what's been the biggest challenge have you have had doing podcasting?
I think the delegation, because I found good like virtual assistants, and then maybe they've gotten like full time jobs and haven't been able to help me. So then being able to find somebody else, right? Um, but I would say that that's been the biggest challenge, really, because doing it is fun and you get to meet a whole bunch of different people that maybe you wouldn't meet otherwise. I like that aspect of it. But yeah, like I say, like I do insurance. I'm not a graphic designer. I'm not, I don't do that stuff. So like it's better to
Yes.
just delegate that and just being to make it be more consistent. I think that that's what helps a lot. Mhm.
Yes, that is exactly right. We should delegate. And of course, also for business owners who are thinking about starting their own podcast, what's
Yeah.
one piece of advice you give them based on your experience?
Yeah, I would say definitely make a list of like who your top guests would be, like maybe certain careers, or if you don't have like people in mind, people that you want to interview and why do you want to interview these people, right? Like,
Yes.
um, so there's a lot of different reasons why people do podcasts, right? So just figure out why you want to do it and what time do you want to invest in the podcast. That you can do it consistently. Because the other thing too, I think people focus too much on like the vanity numbers, like, oh, how many downloads did I get? Which of course that's important, but
Yes.
in order for you to be consistent, you kind of have to put that to the side and really remember like why you're doing the podcast, right?
Exactly right. And of course, it will always tie back to your goal and your purpose of doing it. So, how does podcasting help you with your career?
Well, for me, like I've been guest on a whole bunch of podcasts, and that helps me like to get clips to show people. Like they might ask me like a frequent question, and so I'll just send them a clip of the podcast I was on, maybe like a year or two ago. It doesn't have to be that every week I'm doing a podcast, right? And I think it's also helped with like public speaking because you're talking a lot and you're coming up with ways of saying similar answers but in new ways.
Yes.
And just for like they say, public relations, it's always good to have your face out there. Mhm.
Yes, and podcasting really can get us to a lot of opportunities and also to learn from other people. So I started just this podcast like I'm on my second episode. Third episode will be launching this week, this Friday. And
Okay,
I'm
nice.
really happy because I get to learn from a lot of people. I'm really excited knowing a lot of people
Hmm.
because before I am struggling to have access to people who knows things that is valuable.
Hmm.
So that's the reason also I started this podcast. I started this podcast, Lowkey Genius Podcast, because I believe everyone is a genius, as I have said, and also to show to other people that what if there comes a time that I have a guest on my show that they get to relate to their stories. And that's the time they get motivated to continue with what they're doing. So that is one of my reasons because before when I started freelancing, I don't know where I'm going to get motivation, where I can relate my story like that. And it's really good thing because I get to learn a lot of things right now from you. I didn't expect to have a guest talking about life insurance, health insurance, and this is exciting. I am really happy right now. And previously I get to talk with some talking about leadership, and yeah, I am very happy. And as you have said, this podcasting helps you get some speaking gigs and other opportunities that to boost your career. It's really
Yeah, yeah,
exciting.
that you wouldn't have other ways been able to do it, right? I think like people overthink things a lot. And I get it, right? Yeah, I'm not saying just put something out there without thinking about it, right? But sometimes that overthinking leads to paralysis, and then
Yes.
you don't do anything, and it's like years pass by. Like, what if that Friday night that I had the idea of doing a podcast, I would have like stopped myself because, oh, it's too hard, and oh, I don't have this, I don't have that. I had a microphone, and that's all that you need, right?
Yes.
And video, you have your phone. Your phone takes great cameras, right? Then okay, maybe
Yes.
later on buy a better a webcam that you like, right? But because you've done it enough that you have enough repetitions to know what you're doing and why you're doing it, a lot of times I feel like people get caught up on, oh, I don't have the equipment, or and it's like you don't need that. You just need
Yes,
to
exactly right.
start doing, and as you're doing you learn and you improve.
That is exactly right. And that really resonates with me right now because in my first episode, I recorded my first, second, and third episode. I always said to my guests that I'm not really good. I'm sorry, I'm not really good at speaking in English. I can't comprehend what my guest is telling me, and I have a lot of things to say, but I can't deliver it correctly.
Hmm.
And that's been my struggle. But I just keep doing it because most of my guests they've been telling me that just need to keep going, keep doing it,
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
and you will learn. That's the key. You just have to do it. You will learn.
Yeah, it's the only way. Like I play the piano, right? And people are always
Yes.
like, "Oh, the piano is so hard." It's not hard. It's just you have to dedicate time to practice, to sit there and like, oh, you don't understand part of the song. Well, sit there and practice it until you do. But if I just go and do it once a week, yeah, okay, I'm never going to learn to play the song on the
Yes.
piano because it's not enough repetitions, enough time for my brain to understand what my hands want to do, right? And so it's the same thing. I attribute that to everything in life. Like, you want to be a good podcast host, maybe you have to do 50 episodes to feel confident enough in that,
Yes.
okay, now I know what I'm doing, right? But a lot of times it's also like that mental barrier that we have to overcome, but by doing it, you're also building confidence that I'm doing it. It might not be at a level that I want to be, but at least you're showing yourself that you can do it. And I think consistency, like
Yes.
in podcasts, there's like statistics that for you to be in, like, I don't know. Don't quote me on the numbers I'm gonna give you here, but it's something like to be a top 10% podcast. All you need to do is like release 10 episodes, because that's how quickly people give up. They'll do five
Exactly.
episodes and then maybe they don't get what they want, whatever it is that they started the podcast for. Um, but it's just you haven't done enough, and that's not enough data for you to know if it's good or bad, or what should I change. Mhm.
Yes. And it ties back it will tie back again to your purpose and
Yeah.
to your vision why you're doing this. You have to have a strong purpose. And I really appreciate you for encouraging me. That's been my strength since I start this podcast. And I am really grateful for those people who've been with me on my podcast. This kind of way, podcasting is a great way to boost your confidence, your skills, and of course your knowledge, because you get to know and you get to learn from
You
other
learn from
people.
a whole bunch of different people, things that you would never think of. Like, I had this lady, Heather Monahan, I believe is her name, very early on in my podcast, and she's like a confidence coach, so she helps people get confidence. And I thought that was so interesting because what happened to her was she got fired from her job, and she transitioned that into a whole coaching business where now she teaches other people about confidence. And so to me it's just interesting seeing like the career changes that people have that lead to things that they really want to do in life, or just so many stories, right? That you wouldn't learn just by listening to a podcast, but by actually hosting one.
Yes, and one of the things that one a previous guest told me that you get to learn from other people's experience, and that will
Hmm.
give you an edge by doing podcasting. And I don't know what to say right now. I am just really happy.
Good, good.
So yeah, so right now I just want to ask you, have you already launched your podcast, since you said you pause it, and are you already recording right now?
I have some guests lined up for this coming week. So for
Oh,
sure we're definitely gonna be releasing, hopefully by the end of the month, those
wow,
episodes. Hmm.
that is exciting, and good luck with that.
Thank you.
Yes, and this is for the last time. If people wants to know more about you, I don't know yet how to end conversation, so this is how I do it. If people want to know more about you, where they can find you?
Sure. So they can search my name that's there, Lorena Tomasini, or for LinkedIn. And then on social media, it's MALMINS 22.
Yes.
And then for the podcast, they can just search 12-Minute Talks podcast. We're on YouTube, which is where the videos are. Spotify. Now Spotify also adds the video too, which is pretty cool. Um, Apple, all the major podcast outlets as well. Mhm.
Yes, that is exciting. So, all right, people, thank you so much for watching this episode with Lorena Tomasini. I hope you learn a lot from her about life, insurance, and also health insurance, and a lot of things that we talk about today. I am just glad that you are with us today. So, God bless you all, and see you at the top. Bye bye.